I'm Jordan Hatfield. This is Faster Film Critic. Today on the show, we talk 28 years later with Kolter and Chase Fugel. 28 years later is the third film in this zombie franchise, the second directed by Danny Boyle, and the first to star Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, and Alfie Williams. Look, no way you can convince me that zombies are self-conscious, so of course they're gonna take their clothes off for comfort. About time someone portrayed this aspect of zombie life accurately. Get in, we're going cinephiling. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
What's up?
How you guys doing?
If you recall, when we recorded 28 Days Later, I mentioned that I believe Danny Boyle asked Cillian Murphy to take his clothes off because he wanted to see some man parts. Dude, he ups the ante here, man. He wants to see everybody naked.
All the dicks are
It's
out.
just a fetish film franchise for him.
He's like, I got away with it so easy in the first film.
Yeah. Now I just want dicks everywhere.
Oh, man. Some really, really, really big ones, too.
I was just going to say, the rage virus in this one creates alphas, super strong zombies with giant dicks.
Those alphas grew disproportionately. So, dude, I got to tell you, I went back and I watched 28 Weeks Later.
Oh, what'd you think?
Dude, I liked it.
Okay. Did you like it better than the first one?
I did.
Oh,
I liked
interesting.
it better than the first one.
Okay. All right.
So, admittedly, there are some parts in 28 Weeks Later that are dumber than anything in 28 Days Later.
Sure.
But what I did like in 28 Weeks Later, I really liked. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. It worked for me.
Well, good, man.
Now, I didn't like it a lot better. I mean, I gave 28 Days Later 3 stars. I'd give 28 Weeks Later also 3 stars. But
Okay.
yeah, worthy sequel.
All right. Okay, well, good, man. That's what you want.
I mean, 28 Days Later had a much bigger impact, obviously. It was groundbreaking, it was innovative, and it changed the genre. I give it all the credit in the world for that. But for watching it today, man, I thought 28 Weeks Later was a decent sequel.
Okay.
But I want to know, what did you guys think of 28 Years Later?
Chase, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I want to avoid the question just as much as you, Kolter.
You guys really didn't like.
Dude, the trailer for this movie was awesome.
Yeah, the trailer was amazing.
Yeah. What
But
happened?
the movie did not hold up to that. I have no idea what happened.
The poem Boots in the trailer by Rudyard Kipling was absolutely incredible.
It was, man.
I mean, it fit this genre so well. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it was crazy. You know, my biggest fear was that this movie was going to be a remake, and it was not that.
No, sir. It was
No.
not a remake.
No. What did you think?
You know, the movie starts and I was into the opening scene.
Yeah.
Killing all those little kids was a surprise. I didn't see that coming.
Okay. It's my favorite scene. I love it when kids die. I'm just kidding.
And it was pretty brutal here for sure. I was like, dang, what am I walking into?
Yeah. The juxtaposition with the Teletubbies was...
Teletubbies was one of the scariest things in this entire movie.
Yeah. It's time for a hug. Or death.
So then we skip forward to Jamie and his son Spike.
Yeah.
And he's taking his son out to the woods. He's going to turn him into a man, right?
Yeah.
Why the bow? Why the bow and arrow?
Why not enough arrows? Let's go. We'll
And
just
why
take
not enough-
let's just take a few arrows. F that, man. I'm like, there's arrows all over me, everywhere. I am coming armed to the teeth to the mainland.
Yeah, and then you've got this idea. I'm going to take my 12-year-old son zombie killing in order to turn him into a man.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't say that's a problem in the story, but it is a
Yeah.
weakness. And these zombies are extremely dangerous. Extremely.
Sure, except for the fat, muddy baby ones. They look like giant babies.
I didn't... Well, hold on. I'm getting there.
Okay, sorry.
I couldn't fully buy into this idea. I mean, there's a million ways that you could have
Yeah.
sent Jamie and Spike to the mainland that are far more realistic.
Sure.
Why does it have to be this, I'm going to turn you into a man thing? And by the way, with weapons that are like 450 years old.
Yeah. And there was no other emphasis on them teaching him other skills either. Like, hey, this is a plant that you can eat when you're out here. This is, a behavior you want to avoid. It was just shoot him in the neck.
Agreed. However, I can forgive it. I mean, again, I don't see this as a problem in the story. I think it's a weakness. There could have been a much more intelligent way to develop the story here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just telling you the thoughts that were going through my mind as I'm
Yeah,
sitting
yeah.
in the movie theater. It's like, okay, this is a little bit of a stretch, but I'll forgive. Let's keep moving. But then we get to this like fat tub of lard zombie that doesn't care about anything but eating worms. I was just like, what the heck?
Right.
What happened there? I was like, are we even in the same universe?
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Felt the same way.
I mean, I didn't find the human slugs scary. They were gross. It was effective in that
No.
sense. But why? Why did the zombies de-evolve? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And why were they that big? There's some big old zombies. Big old boys.
How many worms would you have to eat?
Approximately 527 worms per hour is my rough estimate.
Well, that seems to be a pretty good guess.
Yeah, and it just seemed to be just worms. Nothing else.
I
just
guess
the
my
worms.
confusion is that Danny Boyle was largely credited for the fast zombie in 28 Days Later. Why did we go to the fat, slow, sluggish, gross
yeah.
zombie here that didn't really do anything? It feels like a step backwards. It feels like a giant leap backwards. I don't get it.
Yeah, I agree.
However, I do want to say that the aesthetic of the film was really, really cool.
Okay.
I love that they're in the trees and you've got this bright, vibrant green color,
Yeah.
right? And all of a sudden it would flash red, like infrared, and you would see zombies or you would see wild animals and their eyes would be glowing. I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool, that bright red juxtaposed to the bright green.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought that really worked.
Yeah.
And as we were moving through that scene, I was starting to forgive some of the things that caught me off guard that didn't
Okay.
make sense, that I didn't particularly love. And I started to settle into my seat and say, okay, here we go. It's time to kill some zombies.
Okay. It definitely tries to maintain some of the graininess and that disorientation that the other movies had, and it's definitely got some haunting cinematography. They didn't repeat the same look as like a gimmick. They did something different.
And then there were the kill shots where it would like freeze frame,
Right.
the arrow through the skull and it freeze. And oh man, some of those were brutal.
Yeah. Brutal, but odd. I
Really
thought-
cool though.
It was
that
cool,
really
but-
worked for me. I thought it was really
It felt
cool.
like a video game to me.
Yeah, it was kind of an odd choice for me too. It was a little jarring. Like I wasn't sure why,
Yeah.
what the point of doing that was. And I saw a still frame of behind the scenes, and they've got one of the zombies that they kill, and he's sitting in front of this apparatus of like 20 phones on this arc
Yeah.
to kind of get that. It was kind of an odd choice.
It seemed completely unmotivated, solely for aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
hey, this could be a cool idea. Let's just throw it in there.
Yeah.
So you didn't like it?
No.
I just
No,
found
I
it kind of
think
distracting.
It would have been better without.
Yeah.
I liked it. I
Yeah.
thought it was cool.
Huh.
It was jarring, and I thought that was effective given what was going on because it was brutal as hell, man. It was
Yeah, it
really
was.
brutal and graphic. And it just paused it on the screen for you just to look at it, half a second longer than you wanted to. And I thought it worked. I thought it was cool.
Well, along that note,
Also, why didn't they just pull the arrows out of the bodies and then just reuse them?
I wondered about that.
I mean-
The only thing I could think of is that they didn't want to come in contact with the blood because it's
With the
so
blood?
contagious, which completely blows any of that logic out of the water when we get to the end of this movie. We'll get to it, but man.
Yeah.
So, Jordan, I got to ask, you liked kind of that interesting aesthetic of them getting shot. There was a lot of style, and then you talked about the contrast of that, like lush greens and like really vibrant reds. There was a lot of interesting imagery that they didn't, like that poem, that reciting of that poem that we've seen in the trailer is used fairly early in this movie. And what we're doing is we're seeing it like their journey kind of like intercut with these like scenes from this old movie of like defending the fortress and arrows being launched at invading armies. It was just, I thought it just kind of odd. It was interesting. There was something really, this is a coming of age story, and there's some really weird kind of old world traditions, almost like paganism stuff, like a reverence for nature. But there's this kind of strange mysticism to it that I just thought it was weird. They're just kind of using these, these imageries from old films. Just thought it was, I
Yeah.
just didn't expect it.
A lot of that editing in the first half of the film felt like a movie trailer.
Yeah, it was
Less
odd.
like a real movie. And it was just cutting between things so quickly. You couldn't even sit with the characters.
Yeah.
What did you think of the characters here?
I was really impressed with Alfie Williams. He plays Spike, the son, in this, and I came to care for him. I empathized with him. His performance was really good, and that's always kind of a tough thing to do out of young actors. The father was a little one-dimensional. We kind of, you mentioned this earlier. All we kind of see him doing is just teaching his son how to kill. We're going to take him out. It seems to be some kind of tradition on this island to go do that. So you've really got his dad, and then his mom, who's stricken with some kind of illness, mystery illness. We don't know what it is in the beginning of the movie. As we go on this journey, first with his dad and then with Spike and his mom, we get to learn a little bit more about him. Didn't feel like the family dynamic wasn't as fully formed as I would have liked.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite connect with either the father or the mother as much as I did with Spike.
Okay, so you're saying characters are a weakness. Zombies are a weakness,
Agreed.
and even the kill scenes are a weakness.
I suppose it comes down to individual taste. I mean, most of the kills were okay. It was just, there was some telegraphed and just, I don't know, the first we felt really organic and kind of, everything was complementary to the tone and the pace. Here, there's like, a lot of the kills. I wasn't really as scared of the monsters in this movie as I was in 28 Days Later. I was scared of the zombies in 28 Days Later because they moved fast. They were insanely frantic and just kind of, random. And here, you've got these alphas. Not only does it make your dick huge, but apparently they have like command of the other infected. And it was an odd choice to make in terms of like how this virus evolved and its victims over time. And they weren't as scary in this one.
No, they weren't.
To me, for some reason.
I think the first film did a better job at creating the stakes, too. It didn't feel...
yeah.
I mean, there were no key characters that really got killed off super fast, except for the security guy that came in as some sort of comedic relief.
Yeah.
Eric, engaged to the vacuum sucker.
Which was so weird to me. It felt like the movie wanted you to feel this way about the characters, and then it brought this guy in for the sole purpose of comedic relief and kind of laughing at the situation.
Yeah.
Like it couldn't even take itself seriously to an extent.
Yeah, it was odd. I mean, I found the whole integration of that guy and his squad. They knew what they were getting into. You take 8 guys against 10 naked zombies. It shouldn't be a problem for 8 heavily armed dudes. But they just get wiped out in an instant. And then you're right, Chase. It's really the only source of kind of levity or to relieve the tension that we get.
Yeah. And even then it was
weird.
Pretty far into the movie. Like we hadn't seen any brutal kills of characters that we cared about up until that point.
So I have to ask, the rage virus mutates and we get these alphas and we get these fat slug people. I just don't know why. Like the fast-moving rage zombies from 28 Days and 28 Weeks were great. They were great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fine.
Of course, I recognize writer Alex Garland is just trying something new here, and I respect that. But some of these ideas were just bad.
Yeah, I agree. And it gets stupider, to be honest. We end up running into, amongst all of the muddied, naked zombies, we run into one that's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So the insinuation, I think she's wearing a hospital gown. So the insinuation is that she was in a hospital somewhere before she got infected. And I mean, she was pregnant before she got infected.
I think she just looked at the alpha male and just one little glance impregnated her.
Just one glance and boop.
But I did understand the alpha male to be the father, and then out pops healthy baby? I mean, WTF moment.
You know what I think?
Yeah.
I think they're going to make another movie, and that baby's going to be immune to whatever virus it is.
So they are making 2 more movies. This was announced as a trilogy.
Yeah.
This is one of 3.
Oh.
So, of course, the baby comes in somewhere. But, dude, I thought that baby was just going to gnash teeth and rip the shit out of somebody, and it didn't.
That would have been...
I wanted to see evil mutant infant baby from hell.
Well, I think I'd rather would have seen that.
Yeah, me too.
It would have been more interesting.
It would have been less silly than where they went with it.
Yeah, they kind of throw away they add a throwaway line when they run into this allegedly crazy doctor who's living by himself on an island with a mountain of human skulls. I think there's a throwaway line of the placenta's an amazing thing. It's like, oh, that's a hell of a jump, sir. Like to go from
incredibly stupid.
Yeah, agreed.
Walkout worthy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't suggest you walk out, but that was walkout worthy.
Sure. The kid and the soldier letting the mom walk off by herself onto a train to find it also stupid. I mean, there was a lot of silly contrivances and just like bad writing choices that I thought was disappointed.
So is there anything in this movie you liked?
This movie introduces a ton of cool ideas. It just doesn't do a whole lot with them.
It really does.
Yeah.
I think, we just talked about Children of Men recently. It felt like that's the kind of feeling they were trying to elicit by introducing a baby into this world. Again, you've got kind of this weird Colonel Kurtz, from Apocalypse Now aspect. First it was with Jim and 28 Days Later. Now it's kind of with Spike towards the end where he just decides to go rogue and live by himself. Some things that were just silly. What I did like was this idea of this causeway that they used to go from their island to mainland, that the tide kind of rises to give them some protection. It's an interesting idea. But at the end, the kid, Spike, takes this baby all the way back And they make it a point early in the movie that this point of entry into Island is constantly monitored. There's somebody up there watching.
Yeah.
But he managed to go all the way across the causeway, drop the baby off with a note in it, and then go all the way back without anybody noticing.
In the middle of the day, too.
Yeah, exactly. They seem to sacrifice some logic in place of trying to establish certain themes or forced character arcs that it didn't land very well. And then the end of this movie just completely shits the bed, in my opinion.
Gosh.
I mean, obviously they're thinking sequel, but every good movie, even if there's a sequel intended, should be a confined story.
Yes.
That you can watch on its own and appreciate without having to think, oh, you're left with this kind of cliffhanger, and in this case, an incredibly stupid cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Before you get to see the next installment.
It was really bad.
Ugh.
Are you talking about Jimmy the Christian?
Maybe. Is that his name?
Yeah, if you want to put him that way.
Because there are so many stupid things at the end of this movie. I don't know which one you're referring to.
Yeah, you got it.
Jimmy the Christian?
It's just dumb. The way they were killing these zombies, blood would have been splashing and flying everywhere. It was almost kind of like, are they playing a joke on us? Is this?
That's what it felt like.
I get they're setting up a sequel. It just seems so stupid.
Agreed. My expectations for the sequel went down the toilet. It feels almost like, for those of you who stayed for the baby scene, we're really going to test you and see if you'll stay for this too. Messy. Man, this movie just felt really messy.
Yeah.
It even felt like Ray Fiennes knew, a part of him knew how stupid the movie was. Even when he was trying to perform as good as he could, I mean, he wasn't in it like he usually is in his films.
Yeah, not really. I think even when he's not in it, he comes across as being fine. But this was no Conclave. This was not something like that.
I mean, you got to look at the material he has to work with.
Like
you could be the best actor on the planet.
Sure.
You ain't doing much with that script. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. He elevates it in the sense that if it was anybody else, it wouldn't have worked as well, but it still wasn't great. I mean, where does a guy have an unending supply of iodine to smother himself in? There's just so many silly little, and then the fact that it's implied that he's had multiple opportunities to kill Big Dick Larry and never does.
That they're friends.
He just shoots him with a dart. Yeah, they're friends, but he just lets, he tranquilizes him, and then he's standing there with his meat just flapping in the wind, tranquilized, but quote unquote asleep, but still on his feet. Would have been a great time to slash his throat and run off, but
guys, doctors love everyone.
I don't know.
Really,
so weird.
Really weird. And then they tried to throw in the emotional thing with the mom getting diagnosed with cancer, but it was way too late for that.
That seemed like the last thing I expected her to have was cancer for some reason. It was almost set up to be something a little bit more intriguing than that.
Yeah.
But for him to just go, well, it's cancer.
Well, it sounds like you guys really liked this film.
I was disappointed, man,
me too.
for sure.
Well, I want to know exactly how much you loved this film. Let's rate 28 years later on a scale of 1 to 5.
I did enjoy the first one in this franchise, 28 Days Later. Gosh, this was a really hard one. It couldn't sit with a single emotion for any amount of time. Any sentimental moment was undercut by a crazy zombie attack or a half-thought-out joke. It's not my kind of movie. I give it 1 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I appreciate that it wasn't a remake. I also appreciate that they took some swings here. They all missed, unfortunately. Tonally and narratively, it's a very different film than the first two. It's weirdly abstract for reasons that seemed unwarranted. There's some great acting, but it's messy, it's unfocused. And personally, I can't wait to see the sequel and see how all this trauma will help Spike blossom into an angry, unhinged psycho. But I was really disappointed, man. So I'm coming in at a 2 with this one.
2 stars. Well, I'm going to agree. Narratively, this film was a mess. It was not about the rage virus, but rather an exploration of fatherhood in relation to manhood. Oh, no, wait, it's about an unfaithful father and maternal devotion. No. It was about the dangers of steroids. No, wait, it was about the need of supportive communities for babies born into crisis. No, that's not it. It's about dealing with cancer. No, it's about self-discovery and personal growth. No, it's about Christian crime fighters being cool role models. This movie was a narrative disaster. I'm going to agree, Kolter. 2 stars. We want to know, what did you think of 28 Years Later?
All right. I watched this week's movie recommendation on a complete whim. So in keeping with apocalyptic movies, that recommendation is going to be last year's Arcadian. It's a little cheesy. Maybe it's a little tropey. But you know what goes well with that? Nicolas Cage. It's a nice little blend of horror, family drama, and a pretty freaking cool monster design in an age of unoriginality. If you like that kind of thing, give it a watch.
Thank you for listening to Faster Film Critic, and please join us next week when we talk Joseph Kosinski's F1, starring Brad Pitt. You can also follow us on Letterboxd, Cinetrek, and Instagram. Email us at fasterfilmcritic@gmail.com. Hit us up with questions, comments, feedback, and review requests. And please share this episode with your movie-loving friends.